Yeah, so my name's Andy, I'm the GM for Ecogas. Currently have a site up in Reparoa. What I'm going to do, I'll play a quick video that sort of tells you a little bit about anaerobic digestion. When I started this role 18 months ago, I had no idea what I was getting myself into, not from an energy background or a waste background. I was an army brat for 11 years. So this will give a quick overview of what we do, and then I'll get into a bit more detail around the partnerships that we've got in Reparoa and what we're looking for in the future and what we can offer organisations like yours for some strategic alignment, I guess.
Let's take a journey through how we process organic waste through anaerobic digestion into some amazing byproducts, really showcasing circular economy at its finest here in New Zealand. Organic waste, or feedstock, arrives in both liquid and solid forms. All trucks are run across our weighbridge, and the rates at which they can be uploaded into our system. Solid feedstock is tipped off in our internal feedstock bunkers. Trucks are washed out, and then those trucks get to Taupo to pick up a load of aggregate to take back to Auckland. Liquid trucks connect to an electric pump inside our reception hall and load their waste directly into our anaerobic digestion tanks. The anaerobic digestion process. The solid feedstock slurry and our liquid feedstock is pumped directly into our inlet tank. It is then mixed and fed through all three of our large digesters. Throughout this process, biogas is captured as conditioned. The next step in our process is to condition our biogas. The first thing we do is we chill that gas so that we can take away all of the moisture. We then send the gas through either to our CHP, which produces electricity for our site. We also export electricity to the grid. The remaining gas is sent across to the uprater. In partnership with First Renewables, we strip away the CO2, we bring it up to pressure, and we inject the renewable natural gas into the New Zealand natural gas transmission network. That CO2 that we take off the biogas is then shared with tourist growers to help grow tomatoes here in Oakwood. Digester. After 6 days, our digester is ready to be spread on local farming. Our digester is called first time, and after going through a separated stream, which pulls out large fibres and any remaining packaging, our digester is then pasteurised at 73 degrees, which removes any remaining organisms before this is available to be spread to land. We spread our product to land through local contractors. This is a great step forward as it's removing the reliance on synthetic fertilisers. So what we've learned today is that organics don't need to be sent to landfill. They are a resource that we can use to create some amazing byproducts that can help the circular economy from food manufacturing to the dairy industry here in New Zealand.
Cool, so a little video just showing you what we do. Ben, better late than never, good to see you here, mate. So I'll talk a little bit about Ecogas in some more detail. Don't worry, there's more to come, Ben, for you, that's all right. So I'll talk a little bit about what we do and where I see some strategic alignment with this sector. And look, we've got a really good showcase of what we've managed to achieve in Reparoa, but we've got more plants to come, and we're really looking for those partnerships moving forward. So when we talk organic waste, Ecogas was built on the idea of anaerobic digestion out of the UK and Europe. Look, AD is not new, right? This has been done for a long, long time. It's basically a mechanical version of our stomachs. The difference between Europe, UK, North America is they don't have the scale of renewable electricity that we do. And, you know, Andy's version of how to explain this is that they needed to greenwash a little bit where they were getting their energy production from or generation from. And so the government heavily subsidised both the feedstocks into these plants, which we can't afford in New Zealand. We cannot afford to remove farming land into energy cropping. You know, we're already scarce when it comes to land availability. And so farmers were getting paid big money to change from dairy or sheep and beef to growing energy crops. But then on the other end, the government was subsidising either the electricity or the gas output at a rate of around about $80 a gigajoule for gas. Now that's not sustainable for anyone in New Zealand, right? And so it's a very different landscape here in New Zealand. We don't rely on subsidies. We've had to stand on our own 2 feet from day one, and we're really fortunate we've got a couple of really good shareholders in our business. So just a bit of parent stuff for Ecogas. We're owned by a business called Pioneer Energy, so hydro, wind and thermal business based out of the South Island. They are owned by Central Lakes Trust. So we're a New Zealand owned trust run business. We've just brought in a shareholder to Pioneer Energy Group, which owns Ecogas. But yeah, we're 100% New Zealand owned, unlike some of the other larger companies around there. So what this slide demonstrates is what we take in. As I was saying, we're originally going to be a small 1-tank site. So when you look at these tanks up on, laser doesn't work, but the tanks with the domes, each one of those represents the ability to process 25,000 tonne of organic waste a year. So we were going to be one of those. Then the Auckland Council curbside food scrap tender came out. We managed to win it. All of a sudden we're 3 of them, with a lot of redundancy, like N+1 at different parts of our plant that we had to build in. So we became a lot bigger than what we probably originally thought. We also take in commercial and industrial waste. So anything from dairy processed sludges to dead chickens, kiwi fruit byproducts, whatever it is, we will look at. And then out the other side, we've sort of talked about most of them in that voiceover, but we talked. There was a talk about CHPs earlier, so we have one of those on our site that's powered solely off biogas that we generate through the breaking down of those organics. We then power our site from it and then export excess electricity to the grid, depending on what the spot price is. If the spot price is low, then we send that extra biogas across to our gas upgrading plant, strip away the CO2, and then that gas is then injected into the local transmission network through First Gas. That CO2, as of tomorrow morning, should be going down to Turners and Growers. So we've got a CO2 loop. So as we pull that away from the methane, that CO2 is then, or that biogenic CO2 is going to head down to their glasshouse. And then the last one for us is Fertify. So they were the tractors you saw in the video. That's a bio-organic version of nitrogen, but also has a little bit of P and K as well. So really good non-synthetic alternative to your standard fertilisers for wherever we're based. Probably the one, or the things with our byproducts, and especially Fertify, there's a lot of value in them, but you've got to realise the value. So it's not as simple as just, like we've got CO2, but we can't package it yet. So anything that Turners and Growers don't use, so the night offtake for us, we don't have a home for it yet. We're still going through trials on how can we package this cheaply, because we're the first to do stuff in New Zealand. Everything comes with the first to do things price tag, which is incredibly expensive across multiple different technologies. Sorry, just to talk to this slide. So our partnership is with First Renewables, which is a First Gas company, and then Nova's our retail arm that actually sells our gas into the market. In the South Island, obviously no reticulated gas network at the moment, and we'll talk about what we're doing down there shortly. So the future for us. So last week we announced that we just got given consent for our Christchurch plant. So we've won the Christchurch City Council tender. So that will start construction in the next probably 4 to 6 weeks on civils. That'll take us 18 months to build. A little bit bigger than my site up in Reparoa. So it's going to do about 100,000 tonne a year. A lot more fibrous because Christchurch sends the green waste from City Council to us. So we're going to briquette those fibres and turn them into a biomass fuel as well. That can like-for-like replacement for coal or pellets. And then unfortunately there's no reticulated gas network down there, as I talked about. So there's quite a high energy demand on drying that fibre. So at the moment, that's the plan for our biogas, but we are looking at trying to find a site somewhere off-site that's got excess steam. So, we look at Fonterras and co. If we can briquette and dry our fibre off-site, then there is an option for us to start looking at that, our biogas being made into LPG and put into the LPG loop that's in Christchurch. So that's something that's on the table for us at the moment. So that'll be up and running by 2027. We're looking at technologies in Reparoa, so currently working on CO2 packaging. At the moment, we've got about 8,000 tonne of excess CO2 that just vents to atmosphere at night until we can package it. So we're looking at sources for that. And then one of the other technologies is with our renewable natural gas that we are injecting into the grid. We would like to be able to also package that and offer that as a compressed natural gas fuel for trucks. So that's something that we're working on at the moment, and again, just trying to get the price down on that conversion technology. Where to next? So for us, we want to build again, and strategically it's either going to be South Auckland or Lower North Island, Manawatu. For us, we need to package together the whole piece though. So I need to have a biogas offtake agreement, or I'm going to gas condition and inject into the network. I guess the biggest thing around the gas landscape in the future is that, at best guess is 5 or 6 years of industrial supply left in the fields. With Methanex potentially closing or providing an offtake, then that may extend it shortly. When's the tipping point for that transmission to be economic to maintain? So does the transmission network get turned off, and do we end up with isolated distribution loops around New Zealand that we already have at the moment anywhere, from Wellington, Taranaki, Manawatu, all the way up. There are lower pressure distribution loops, but will there be a transmission network in the next 5 to 10 years? Who knows? So what that means to me is that if I can't condition it and then put it into the network, do I need a raw offtake where someone that's using natural gas at the moment can just change the head on their boiler and then use biogas as a like-for-like replacement. So I need to solve the biogas problem. I want to have someone that wants CO2. I need to have flat farmland nearby to get rid of my digestate. That liquid digestate, we generate 250,000 litres a day, which is only enough for 25 hectares of farm. But they go in those big bloody tractors, so the further that goes away, the more expensive it becomes to spread. And then there's a quick balance at about the 20k mark from our plant that synthetics now become more cost efficient. So again, we've got to site this plant in the right location that's near a gas line, close to a big user of biogas, and have and have the other parts of the equation like a CO2 loop, a heat loop, so all of the excess heat from our boilers, our CHP, we also share down the road as well. So that's my next thoughts, and happy to chat with that over a beer later on today. We're currently setting up an anaerobic digestion centre of excellence. We know we're not going to be the only player in the market. We actually want someone else to come in. Everyone thinks our price is too expensive at the moment at the gate. And what I mean by that is we run a landfill model, right? So we charge per tonne for waste to be dropped off to us. 80% of our revenue comes from our gate fee. Only 20% of our revenue comes from renewable natural gas, from CO2, from our fertiliser. And so everyone thinks that we're priced too high. We're about half the landfill rate. But if another competitor comes into the market and has to build a plant today, that'll only put our prices up because they won't be able to maintain a gate fee that we can. So yeah, like what I was meaning by that is we know we're not going to be the only ones, but we want people to do it right. We don't want cowboys coming in and making a bad name for the industry. Because it's so new in New Zealand, we know how fickle we can be. And we'll hear one bad story and we'll go off the idea of AD. And that's been the journey that, especially in our Fertify space, which is that digestate, it's taken a long time to convert farmers across. They love it now in Reparoa. There's people, entire farms that won't touch synthetics anymore. But, for all of us that are farmers or know farmers, if great-great-granddad did something, so they still do it that way today, and it takes a wee while to get them away from ring and balance for a load of super or urea and go into something new and a little bit more dynamic. Last one for us is always feedstock. So feedstock is organic waste. There's a lot of architects that like to say there's lots of it out there, but not a lot of builders that know how to operationally put it together. And what I mean by that is you can go to any of these biogas bridges or these other symposiums on energy, whether it be government or you know, Becker Consulting, that say, you know, there's 3 million tonnes of organic waste generated every year in New Zealand that could be used for anaerobic digestion. Half of that is crop residues. What farmer in his right mind is going to go and plough that out of the field, chuck it in a truck, send it to me, pay me $100 and something a tonne for me to process it? Just doesn't stack up. It might work in Europe and the UK, but there's a few realities to how that works here in New Zealand. So key for us is long-term contracts. If I'm going to go and build a $75 million plant, I need to have, you know, at least 60-70% of my capacity underpinned with a 25-year contract, so I can go back to my shareholders and say, yep, this one stacks up. And that's really hard to find, you know. So what we've got to be smart about is pivoting and going, well, we've got the strategic relationship where we're going to get waste from them, they're going to buy gas from us, we're going to provide CO2 here and heat over here, and that's sort of the puzzle picture that I'm trying to put together at the moment. So yeah, hopefully I haven't bored you guys too much, and girls. Any questions for me while I'm here?